Let's read some Glitch in the Matrix stories, part 160. Double story Quantum Immortality, Guardian Angels. Hello, Auntie Matrix. Hi! I love your account and thank you so much for sharing and reading all these stories. You created a community where I feel validated and it's really nice. Oh my God, thank you so much for saying that. It makes me so happy. First off, I'm French, so English is not my mother tongue, so I'll do my best to explain what happened to me. I'm a jeweler and I was working in my studio as usual. I'm studying a technique that I don't really master yet that consists in to melt silver in a crucible and pour it into the mold. I'm used to working with melted silver and a torch. I do it every day. I was melting silver today and putting maybe a bit too much of it in the crucible. As silver was getting to the melting point, it started doing bubbles. It happens, nothing strange here, but what is so strange is what happens after. As I was looking at the silver, it somehow exploded all over the studio. This never happened to me before. I saw the silver splashes in the air and closed my eyes very strong. I took off my protection glasses and gloves earlier because I couldn't see and handle the crucible properly, and I was not wearing my leather apron. Yes, this is very bad and very dangerous. Never do this. It was so stupid of me. As I closed my eyes, I remembered very clearly the thought, I'd even say the certainty, that this would be the very last thing I'll ever see. I felt very clearly the burning hot silver splashes on my face, especially one on my upper eyelid very close to the internal corner of my eye. Next thing I know, I was running to the bathroom, checking my face, hands, hair, clothes, etc. Nothing. I could still feel the weight of the silver splash that hit my eyelid, but nothing. No pain, no redness, just as if nothing had happened. My clothes were immaculate too. I go back to the studio and see the mess, silver splattered everywhere on the floor, very small bits of silver and some bigger. At some spots, the floor is burnt. My working bench is burnt too at several spots. I felt dizzy and decided to call my fiance for a minute since he was downstairs. I was in shock. He reassured me and I started to collect my mind. He asked me if I turned the gas off for the torch. I said no. He checked the gas and it was off. Then it hit me. I don't remember turning the torch off or even the gas cylinder at all. And there it was, the torch on the bench perfectly off. What the fuck? The melted silver should have hurt me very bad, and all I can remember is the explosion, this absolute feeling of certainty that this is the last thing I'll ever see, and then a very little blackout, and then running to the bathroom. I don't know what happened, if I died or got hurt very bad in the other dimension and came back intact in this one, or if a guardian angel was watching over me. Who the hell turned off the torch? How is it possible that I have zero burnings, even my clothes, and the floor is damaged? The strangest thing is that after that, I felt off as if I was adjusting. Interesting. I felt like I was landing here, and I wrote to my brother to explain to him what happened. He replied 3 hours later, and when I read his answer, I was like, what is he talking about? Then I read the text that I sent, and I recollected. It's like something tried to wipe this out of my mind. One thing is sure, I've been very uncautious, and I'll never work with melting silver without my protection equipment. What do you think? I think that's crazy, and the fact that you had no burns on you, no marks when you felt it on you, and you had no marks, burns on yourself or your clothing, but they were burns in the floor and burns in the bench that you were sitting on. It sounds like quantum immortality to me. And then you felt like you were adjusting. That is very interesting. And the dizziness? What do you guys think? Let's get to the second story. Hold on. I have a second one, same style, but about my dear brother that I mentioned above. Trigger warning for blood. He was at a garage sale in Paris with my mother and my sister-in-law. Suddenly, a storm started and the wind was very, very powerful, like 100 kilometers per hour. I don't know the equivalent in your miles system, but just know that it's fast like a car on the highway. A frame flew in the air and the glass exploded on the floor. So many explosions in the family. He received several pieces of glass in his left arm and got deep cuts, especially 3 cuts that were not pretty to look at. He could clearly see his flesh and all. Keep in mind, my brother is a very strong person. He doesn't flinch easily. He's like a warrior. So he screamed to my mom and my sister-in-law, "I'm hit!" They brought him to a cafe where my mom asked for clean towels. They gave her some nasty cloth hanging behind the bar. There was nothing to clean up the wounds, but he was losing so much blood that my mom was just pressing his arm with the cloth. After calling the equivalent of 911, they told her they can't come yet and then they'll have to wait at least 15 minutes. So my mom got 3 in an Uber to the hospital. They cleaned up the wounds and stitched him up. The night after that, my brother texts me and explains what happened earlier. I was on vacation and I freaked out. He tells me that he had a strange moment when he was bleeding, that he felt like he died and suddenly he was back. He started his text with, "Hey, I think I experienced quantum immortality. I can't stop thinking about how I probably could have a dead brother in another timeline, it gives me the chills because my brother is the person I love the most in the universe. When I wrote him in the previous story, I thought about his experience and how it can be somewhat similar. So strange, right? Afterwards, he healed properly and had zero infection. He didn't even need antibiotics to prevent, despite the deepness of his cuts and the fact that a dirty cloth was used. He just lost some sensitivity on part of his arm that was wounded and got 3 big scars that he'll cover up with a nice tattoo. Thanks for reading. I wish you the best day ever. Thank you so much for sharing. I'm not sure if your brother experienced the same thing, because in his case, he did actually still have the cuts and all the thing, but he could have. I don't know. What do you guys think? Also, I'm glad everybody's okay.